All right, there we go. All right, day 9, camera is recording. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, I'm Vanessa, and I am reading to you Wednesday of week 2 devotional, starting with the scripture from John 13, 1 through 17. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." This story may seem out of place in Advent, but it has a lot to say to us as we wait. The disciples around this Passover table were also waiting for God to act. In fact, all the Jewish people were waiting for the promised Messiah to overpower the Romans and make Israel great again. Now, after the triumphal entry and the rising fury of the religious leaders, the disciples just knew something big was about to happen. With everyone around Jesus waiting for him to instigate some cataclysmic event, Jesus gets up from the table and washes their feet. They were waiting for Jesus to do something big and glorious, and this was shockingly small and dirty. Here in the midst of a group waiting for a king to show up, Jesus provides the clearest picture of who our king is and what our king does. Many of us, like the disciples, are eager for God to get to work out there, fixing all that is wrong in the world. In the darkness of our Advent waiting, we long for God to bring an end to the injustice, deception, suffering, and evil that run rampant in our world. We dream of the day that God will vanquish our enemies in a big way. But what if, while we wait for God to get to work out there, Jesus decides to show up in here, right at our very feet, with a towel and a basin? Or maybe for those of us who are not accustomed to foot washing, Jesus shows up to scrub our bathroom, clean out our storage unit, or tackle that pile of dishes in the sink. Whatever the metaphor, we are given an image of Jesus voluntarily stooping down in the muck of our lives to care for us in the places we're too embarrassed to let anyone else touch. Sometimes I think it would be easier if Jesus were only interested in the big picture. The way he wants to talk about and touch on such deeply personal things feels intimidating and even risky. I'm ready to show Jesus how good I am at serving people, but he asks if I'm ready to let him serve me. I'm good at pointing out what those people need over there, but he asks what I want him to do for me. I want Jesus to go out and heal the world, but he asks me to show him my wounds, my grief, my disappointment. This whole being loved to the end thing requires a lot of us. And when we're tempted to balk at this outrageous request to enter into the dirtiest details of our lives, we're reminded of his response to Peter, which is essentially, well, it's this or nothing. In loving us to the end, Jesus invites us to let him into the very end of ourselves so that nothing is left untouched or hidden away. It isn't easy to open ourselves up like that. It requires courage and vulnerability and humility, and it is deeply good. So what happens if we're just not ready yet to let Jesus into the muck? Perhaps the very best news of all is that it's not only a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The steadfast love of the Lord is new every morning. Jesus is ready whenever we are.